right. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to Woodwork and Carpentry Joinery. We're going to start a new project today, so thanks for everybody who participated in trying their own birdhouse at home. Some of them looked really cool, and I know it's not easy without all the tools in the shop, but hey, we do the best that we can. So I'm going to start a new project today. It's kind of rainy outside, and I need a couple things for my garden, and it turned out I found a whole bunch of strips that I'm going to show you guys, and I'm going to make a little garden trellis. So the next project I'm going to have you guys do is going to be for something around the home of your choice, depending on what you want to do and materials that you have. So I'm going to take you through the steps I'm using on my little project, which is going to help hold up some peas in my garden. And I'm also going to post a whole bunch of easy, simple projects that you might be able to try at home. Some of them from using rubber bands to whatnot, or if you have your own idea, then you'll be able to choose that as well. All I ask is that you let me know what the plan is or what project you're picking, so that then we can, so then I know what you're actually trying to do. So let's get started. I'll show you what I'm going to work with. Alright, so here's some long strips of material I happen to have laying around the shop, and so I'm going to use my chop saw here to buck these up into some shorter lengths. I'm basically going to make a grid garden trellis for my veggies to grow up on. Got a little garden started out here, and I'm going to replace an old metal trellis with a nicer looking wood one. I'm going to make some hinges on the top and go from there. Okay, here's my real rough plan of my garden trellis. It's going to be an A-frame. I'm going to have it hinged on the top so I can take it out and reuse it. I'm going to have a decorative part on top. I know that I need it to be 33 inches max or wide, so that I can fit that in my garden bed. I'm going to join all my strips basically with a bit of glue and some brad nails, because I have a brad nailer right here. Looking like I'm a little short on good length brad nails, so we'll have to figure something out on that one. So I just measured out my pieces, and they're approximately 7 feet long. So what I'm going to do is cut 3 feet off of a number of them, and that's going to be my horizontal part of my trellis, and then the leftover 4 feet will be my vertical part of the trellis. Alright, my pieces have been cut to length. I've got my long stakes that I'm going to use for the vertical pieces and my shorter ones for the horizontal. Let's lay one up. Okay, here's a rough layout of what I'm going to be doing. Got my 3 vertical pieces. I think I'll put a little bit of a point on the end, because that longer piece is what's going into the ground. And then I've laid my horizontal ones down. I haven't spaced them perfectly yet, but I will do that. There will be a little overhang. And then I've left a wider strip at the top where I'm going to do a decorative edge. And then I will be able to put a couple of hinges on the top to make it an A-frame with the other side, which is sitting down here on the floor still. So I'm going to get busy doing a bit of measuring and marking this thing out. I'll show you guys what I'm doing before I glue and pin it all together, and we'll get it installed in the garden. Alright guys, we're back here. We're going to finish my garden trellis project that I started. I showed you guys this the other day. Little change in the layout. Got that thing ready to be put together. So I'm just going to put some little ends on the stakes using the chop saw. So I'm going to show you guys how to do some 45s to make nice little points. Cool. Alright, I've set my chop saw to 45 degrees. I made sure I moved my fence back. There's an adjustment for that so I don't actually collide with that, because that can happen on some of these DeWalt models. And I'm going to be putting a little bevel on here to create a point. So I just set my square up so I could do a nice 45 to the center of this little piece, and then I did an extension line across the back so I can line up my saw blade. So I'm going to set that up, I'll show you, and then we'll make the cuts. We're going to rotate it 4 times using a stop block on the end, and we'll end up with a nice point on the end of this. Alright, we've got a stop block set now, so when I bring the blade down, it's going to cut just on the waist side of that layout line. So we'll cut that one, and then we'll see what it looks like.
What's happening, Daddy?
First cut. Cut 2. Cut 3. And cut 4. So what we're left with is a nice pointed end, 45 degrees, little cap. So that can be used in a lot of ways, especially doing decorative stuff on different types of projects. Very cool. There we go, 4 stakes and 4 little 45 cuts on top, make pyramid. Great, so now that I've got the ends cut, I've gone and done a little bit of layout on where I want everything to be lining up. And so I actually went and just marked one of the horizontal and one of the verticals by using my measuring tape and square. And then I've transferred all of these markings across my pieces by lining them up square on one end and then making my layouts. This way I only have to measure once, makes it a lot easier. So good little trick to do. I've changed my plan a little bit. I'm actually going to drill some pilot holes through my horizontal slats to screw into the other ones. And so I've just laid out one here, and I'm going to use this as a jig so that I can drill a center hole in all of them. I'll drill a pilot hole, and then I can assemble the rest with impact driver. It's going to work a little bit better. I found a ton of screws in a little collection I have that'll do the job for that part of the project. All right, let's set up our drill. Nice, so to be as efficient as possible, I'm going to clamp 3 strips together because I can drill almost all the way through with in one go, and I'm going to use the top one each time as my my pattern. So I'm using a 1/8 drill bit, and we'll drill as straight as we can to get this all the way through because I don't have a drill press. Now I'll be able to use this same pattern on the top to drill through the other strips that I have a big lineup of. So I'm going to get going on that, and we'll check it out when it's done. Boom, holes are drilled. Now, you guys might remember me talking about doing this. This is the very top piece, and I've laid out a little curve cut that I'm going to do on the ends of each one. Now, what I'm going to actually do is carefully cut this one with my jigsaw. And then I'm going to use a new sander that I found at my dad's house to trim this or sand this thing up a little bit smooth. I'll then use this as a pattern to lay it out on my next piece, so I get the same profile, and then I can work back and forth and make them all. So I'm going to get started on that process, and we'll check it out. Rough cut, and now we'll go and sand it on my sander. Sick little belt sander setup. I actually built this at BCIT back in 2003, so yeah, pretty old. It's been at my dad's house forever. I made everything on it. We'll plug it in and get it fired up. Looks like I just trashed the belt on my sander. It went down into the motor. Wasn't set right. So first test in a lot of years, and the tracking wasn't set right on my belt. So it spooled down and got eaten up, and now it's wedged. So now I'm taking the whole thing apart to try and fix it. Really frustrating, but sometimes this is what happens when you're working with shop equipment. Hopefully you guys don't have too many frustrations with your project. I'll get this fixed and we'll get back up and going. Sweet! Okay, so my profiles are done at the top, and I just did a quick mock-up here with my first few pieces. I'm going to assemble this thing. So I got a square in here to make sure I'm keeping it square, and I'm going to install my zinc construction screws. These are 1 1/4 inch number 8s, Robertson drive, and these are just long enough not to go all the way through and should hold this thing securely. I'm going to do the 4 outside corners first with my handy impact driver, and continue to make sure it's square before I add the next rows, and that'll ensure squareness. Once I put both sides together, we'll add hinges, and the trellis will be ready for a bit of finish and install in the garden. Cool. Sweet, I've got the 2 trellis halves all put together as you saw, and I just found some hinges. I went through a whole bunch of my little parts trays, which I have just tons and tons of stuff in, and I found some stainless steel ones and a couple of brass ones. So I'll decide on which ones I'm going to use, and I'm going to mount 2 up on the top, and then this thing will open like an A-frame, and we'll put it in the veggie garden. Hinge 1 is halfway on here. Just reminding you guys, I've taught a lot of you this before, but if you're installing hardware, drill it, then fill it, and then drill your next hole. It's a lot easier to align things. You maybe didn't see me do that quite as much on my installation of my rails, but this whole thing's a little bit more flexible when it comes to installing those types of things. But if you can with hardware, drill it, then fill it. Yeah. Just look at that alignment. Amazing. All right, here it is. I'm just going to wipe on a coat of linseed oil, and then we'll get it in the garden and be wrapped up this quick project. Here it is, the final product. We got the trellis in the garden, some peas growing up underneath. It's exactly what I wanted. A couple little mistakes, but as I say, that happens in every project. Alright guys, so you saw me do the garden trellis build, really easy one, but you guys are going to move on to your next challenge, which is building a project of your choice. I'm going to send a list as well of some project ideas that you guys can do, some easy ones at home, so I'll put up a link to that. And the goal for this one will be to develop and design a project with materials you have at home. Of course, you'll have to check with parents if you're going to be using any power tools. Make sure you're using all safety precautions, eye protection, and never do any work at home by yourself. Email me if you have questions, comments, concerns, or if you're just going to do a different project. I'd like to know what it is, and then I'll put up a due date on this this assignment as well. It can be as complex or as basic as you like it. Anyways, we'll get back to you guys in a little bit. Thanks for watching.